It is 7:05, and I'd like to call to order the Townsend Housing Authority meeting for Wednesday, May 4th. Can I have a roll call, please?
Natalie Call, present.
Laura Schifrin, present.
Chaz Sexton Duranian, present.
Thank you. Courtney Bradley, present. So this meeting is being recorded. And can we go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the
republic
for which it
for which
stands,
it stands,
nation
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
with liberty
justice
for all. Thank you. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No.
I don't have time, but does anyone else?
I do not.
Thank you. And 1.6, we have reorganization of the board. So we have Lori back 3 more years, which is great.
If this is acceptable, I would like to make a motion that I'm tired. I am tired. I'd like to make a motion that the officers, or however the chairman, vice chairman, and clerk remain the same as last year, if that's acceptable.
If you're making a motion, I'll second that.
Roll call vote.
Natalie Call, yes.
Laura Schifrin, yes.
Chaz Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Courtney Bradley, yes. Okay.
Thank you, Courtney.
Easy. Okay, we got 1.7 state representative report.
Okay. Yeah, where do I start?
Can you start with your position?
I just sent everybody the cover letter that I've sent into the governor. And what I'm looking for is letters of recommendation. The letters, if you can send them direct to me, what I'll do is I'll forward them to Senator Cronin. Senator Cronin's office has agreed to send all of the information to the proper authority with his recommendation as well. My position is up, I think, February 12th. It runs to June 12th. So I'm still on board until June 12th. So we have time to get it all in and get it taken care of. As far as some of the other things that I've been doing, I know that I've been to several different meetings. Mike Crowley, the land use gentleman, is going to be here to talk about, I would assume, the MBTA, more about the MBTA. I've attended 2 meetings in regards to that with state representatives from a couple of different communities. And nothing really to report. It's just a lot of information. There's some questions that I have in regards to what transportation center we actually answer to, whether it's Lowell or whether it's the Mart area. I'm not really sure. I think it's the Lowell one, but we really do need to kind of look at that when we start planning what area we're looking at and what rail we're servicing. I believe it's Lowell, and if it is Lowell, we certainly do need to figure out how to move forward with that. So that's kind of in the works. The other thing that I'm also in the works is that, as we know, that Sheila has been very influential in the housing authority since I got here for the last 8 years. She has stepped down, and we have a couple of candidates for the state rep position. I'm kind of posturing myself between the candidates just to kind of get a feel for where they're at, what they think in regards to the future. I've talked with Mr. Shepard, who is running for Sheila's position. He was Sheila's aide, and he's very familiar with the area. He's very familiar, well, he grew up in, we all know the Shepards, but I really like the way he thinks in regards to knowing our town, knowing the resources that we have, being able to sustain the natural resources that we have, but also assist with the housing production. And he understands and he believes that what we've put forward with the housing production plan is something we need to take forward. I've also talked to Margaret Scarsdale, who was the chair of this Board of Selectmen over in Pepperell. She's also running for that position. She also is very keen on what we need for the area, especially for housing. I think that's another candidate we need to keep in touch with. So whoever gets elected, that'll be our go-to kind of person. And there's a third candidate, and I know that she just turned in her paperwork, but I have not talked to her. So when I get a chance, I will reach out. But if you guys have any questions or you want to, let me know. I can give you the information for both of those candidates, and then the third when I get it, for you guys to go ahead and touch base. And the last thing that actually I was really kind of digging into, there was a state meeting that I went to 2 months ago, I think it was, and it was in regards to the infrastructure and what we might be getting through with the federal government. There looks like there's going to be a portion that is going to assist with the development and planning of housing production in certain smaller communities. I'm trying to find more information in regards to that. If that is indeed the case, it looks like this particular opportunity would be more of a grant type of thing. And it sounds to me like it's on the same lines as DLTA, what we usually get from MRPC, but this is more on a federal, on the federal plane. But once I get that more information in regards to that, I'll pass that along. And I think that's all I got.
Great, thank you, Chaz. Okay, so we'll get into number 2, the work session. So 2.1, the housing production plan, next steps and target goals. So we started to talk about this last time. I think we kind of tabled it. Just thinking about now that we've gotten through the HPP, where we want to go next on this. And I know that there's been some talk between other boards as well. So if anybody has any kind of info on what other people have been working on and what we may want to think about here in 2022 coming off of our HPP.
Okay, Courtney, I'll just fill you in on where we are now at the planning board. We are not a full board. The master plan has not been accepted yet. We were supposed to try to have another work session with the old full board prior to our May 9th meeting. That did not happen. So, and I am back on, and we do have a new member. We are still lacking a member, which unfortunately was our senior member. And all I can tell you is that at the last meeting, as this stated, we had the request of incorporating the HPP into the master plan. And I finished my completion of what my task was going to be in reference to the master plan. We will have some discussion at the May 9th meeting, but I'm not going to have all the board members that I needed to have. So not sure where that's going to go or how long this is going to take. I've also discussed with the zoning chair in reference to the governor's bylaw and how we need to all find common ground on what our goals are for our community. Although the bylaws may not be in place yet, that doesn't mean we can't look towards the future and be proactive with what is going to be expected of us, rather than just saying we don't have a bylaw.
Are you talking about the MBTA community?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so hopefully this will be thought out. Hopefully planning will, I have requested that zoning meet and propose a bylaw to accommodate the law, which I understand that Mike Crowley is working on. I will have a conversation with him. I didn't get to speak to anyone today. I know that you were going to ask him to call me.
He's on.
Mike?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hi,
hey.
hello.
Okay,
Mike, Lori, Mike.
So I actually was going to come on to introduce myself today. I'm Mike Crowley. I'm the land use coordinator. I've been in the role for 3 months and I haven't been to one of these meetings yet. I'm really sorry. We've been very busy in land use. It's been fun, but it's been busy. But I've been talking with Jody and I've had an opportunity to talk with Courtney and most of you at this point through one means or another. But there's going to be a lot of collaboration between my office and your authority, and in particular, especially with this MBTA communities. But if there's other ways that as towns and housing moves forward, I can be supportive, please feel free to use me as a resource, as a staff member, because I know you have some staff time that is but not a lot. So I'm happy to be helpful on that. But I'm here to answer questions if there's something I can actually answer a question about today. Sure. I mean, I just was coming in to say hi. Did you have a specific question, Lori?
So in my preparation for the meeting last night, I always, for whatever reason, I didn't remember that we were not having the article that the governor had wanted the towns to approve, that we were not doing that last night. So, but I saw the documents that you've approved, that you have worked on, the 3 documents Jody sent to me, referencing the DLTA grant and not the bylaw itself, but the process of the grant. So I guess, and what I was just saying was I spoke to the chairman of zoning and today, and just made the suggestion that they start working on a bylaw, their recommendation of a bylaw to the planning, which will work in conjunction with, to bring before town meeting, to work in helping us obtain the goals that the governor wants us to obtain. Especially, now we're not going to be able to meet all of the requirements, obviously, like a lot of other small towns that are on private sewer. But so the 50-acre overlay thing, that may not work for us, and it may not work for, and probably won't work for, a lot of the other small communities within the MRPC region, which is why we're going to get their help on this as well. So, but we do have, and I'm bringing it up to the Housing Authority today because I've mentioned it to the trust as well as to Chaz, that there is an opportunity that has come up at 67 Highland Street. It is a 1-acre lot, does not conform to zoning, does not conform to the governor's, exact criteria, but the owner is going to be putting in a new septic system, is tearing down the building that's there because it's not salvageable, and it has town water. He is willing to put in a 3-family home and make them all affordable units. So rather than having a single family that is not going to count towards our affordable housing, he is willing, because he's not looking to flip the property, he is willing to do a 3-family affordable housing project. Deed restriction doesn't bother him. He's just fully on board as a community member to help us get through this process. Now, granted, I put the bug in his ear. That isn't what he was going to do originally, but I said, we need help. We need to increase our count. You can do this. You are in a position to help us do this. And so he is agreeable to doing that. Because of our current zoning, he will be denied a permit. He'll be denied the permit. He is willing to go to zoning to obtain a variance. Zoning will have to figure out a way how to give him a variance and help the community grow in their affordable housing. With an active participant, it's not going to cost the community any money. So that's where I am on that.
Can he apply for a comprehensive permit?
I don't understand that.
Can,
When you say comprehensive, I don't understand that.
well, there's, if he's looking to build something, and Mike, I'll need your help on this because I'll trip over my tongue when I start talking about it. A comprehensive permitting process is that if you are showing that you are building for affordability, it streamlines the permitting process.
Okay, I didn't know all the terminology to tell him. I only spoke of my passion and what we need.
Mhm.
The process, I don't know. I don't claim to know it. So I guess what I'm looking for is for Mike and the chairman of zoning and the planning board to help this process obtain the goal. It's more for the town than it is for him.
Mhm. What do you think, Mike?
Well, affordable housing is something we really need to prioritize in town. It's something that we're lacking. So I can appreciate the fact that we're having some citizens that are interested in kind of exploring that as an opportunity. I'll have to look into the comprehensive zoning package. I pulled it up and I haven't been into that as much at this point. For the MBTA community specifically piece of it, if that was part of what you were kind of bringing in, that's zoning, but there are also regulations about parcel size and how they have to be related to each other. And so, for example, in addition to 50 acres, they don't have to all be contiguous, but there has to be one that's at least, I think, 25 acres, and then other ones have to be of different sizes. So while this as an opportunity is something I definitely think we should explore, whether or not that ends up fitting into MBTA, it might be the kind of thing that, it might not fit. We don't want to necessarily shape all of the MBTA plan around the 1 acre, but I do think it's definitely worth exploring. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do have time for MBTA because we're an adjacent community. Our deadline for a bylaw enacted is not until December of 2024. So we have a little bit of a lead time to write a good plan for that.
Okay, so I understand that, and hoping that they will count this parcel. What I'm saying is this landowner is not going to wait until 2024. And why should he? Why should anybody who's willing to give up of their own and say, yes, I don't care about the affordable housing deed restriction. I'm never going to sell this property, or not never, but his intent is never to sell it. If it gets left to his family and whatnot, one never knows.
Mhm.
But the 15-year deed restriction did not faze him. It is a problem for some people.
So,
And
but I agree with you that we need to do what we, as a housing authority, to assist this person to be able to, you know what I mean? If he's building a 3-unit place, we need to do whatever we need to do to help him out.
well, this is where I was going with it. And originally I didn't get a yes on it. Okay. It wasn't until he was going to have to replace the septic anyway. He was now going to have to take down the building anyway, that I said, oh my God, I know that you're going to keep the building. Would you do this for the town? Because in essence, and what I've said this before, Middlesex South, you can go affordable and still get market rent in Townsend because we're Middlesex South.
Right.
If you were in Fitchburg, that would not be the case. If you were, in another community that wasn't Middlesex, that would not be the case. Worcester County is not the case. So for people who own in Townsend who want to build and have the opportunity to do affordable, like Benjamin Builders did with Turnpike Village. Okay. That turned out to be because of a market type of thing and the length and what was happening in the market itself at the time, to our favor in getting all of those units counted. And he was okay with the 15-year, restricted, whatever.
Mhm.
So I'm saying this is a great opportunity for us at no cost to help him get through the process. Now, if comprehensive streamlines it, I know that the zoning chair was thinking, well, we have a bylaw for elder housing, and it could probably be streamlined through elder housing, which is probably part of how Atwood got going in Townsend Woods. And it would probably still be counted towards affordable housing if we did the elder housing and stayed within the bylaw. But I don't think it's fair to restrict the owner to that. He's going to do a 6-bedroom, 2-bedroom units, So
Is
and
this,
they're not going to be ranches. They're not going to have elevators. It's going to be like a townhouse thing, I think.
so this is going to fall within it's called the LIP, local initiative something program, because it's not what you're talking about, Lori, would be a larger scale like Atwood Acres or Townsend Woods.
Oh yeah, that was within, yes, you're right. You're right.
But the smaller projects are under the LIP program. I think it's called the LIP, local initiative program, I think it's called. And it would fit into what you're talking about, and also what Courtney was talking about at one time with your pocket neighborhoods.
Yep.
Okay. So
I guess I was just gonna say, I also feel like, I mean, I know we're talking about a very specific property right now, but it feels to me like, one thing that we should be starting to look at is how to do duplexes or triplexes, in thinking about a bylaw that does work for future, landowners, so that we're not getting to this spot right here where we're saying he's going to get denied, right? It seems to me like that's one of the things we are, should be pushing for.
Totally agree.
Joan, did you have a comment?
Thank you. Actually, my hand was up because I wanted the verbiage. It's called the comprehensive permit, Chaz, right?
It's called a comprehensive permitting, and that is the way comprehensive permitting is set up, is that you go in and it's a one-time, you get one permit, but it's for everything. It's for all of it, and it's for housing.
Great, thank you.
Affordable housing.
I will tell you, when you're talking about LIP, so the DLTA grant that the Affordable Housing Trust received, one of what we highlighted in our contract with MRPC is develop guidelines for the LIP program, local initiative program, and provide draft to trust for review. So they're going to help us with that.
Mm-hmm.
We also asked them to evaluate creation of a 40R smart growth district and how that fits with new MBTA communities.
Mm-hmm.
Investigate promoting smaller developments on trust-owned parcels, discuss with trust and include in the 5-year action plan. So the LIP was in there. Just wanted to share.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Lori, I think the Coppersmith Way was part of a LIP program as well, because it was a smaller development type process. It wasn't like a larger scale thing, but it was through the local initiative. Mike's got his hand up, everybody.
Mike. Oh, I think you're muted there, Mike. I know.
I was figuring it out as you were saying it, and I felt embarrassed about it for sure. Geez, you'd think I'd figure this out by now. I just had a question just because I want to make sure that I'm on board with everything we're talking about. So the affordable housing, are we talking about the special provisions in the zoning bylaw that allows for a higher density permit under 14548, affordable housing conditional density bonuses, or is there another affordable housing bylaw?
Oh, Chaz, now you're muted. We're going around.
Thanks for making me feel better, Chad. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm like, why does it say you're muted? I'm like, I'm not muted. If a 40B went in to be built, that's how they go in there. They go in to get a comprehensive permit so that it is a density they can increase the density and all of that kind of stuff. I think the LIP program has specific guidelines for smaller, not developments, but projects like we're talking about, like the Affordable Housing Trust is talking about smaller parcels of land with smaller affordable housing units on that.
Okay. I was
and
just
I-
curious. I just happened to pull up that 14548, and it does
Right.
specifically say that it can only be allowed in conjunction with open space development and open space multifamily development.
Yep.
And that the planning board may not allow increased density beyond one total dwelling unit per acre. So I didn't know if that was the one that we were talking about, or if there's something else that I should look at. Because when I
I don't
see that,
think so.
is that
How is that gonna, that's not gonna work for
Mhm.
what I'm talking about.
yeah, that's why I just, again, I haven't spent a lot of time getting on board with affordable housing yet. So I want to make sure that I'm checking the right information when I'm talking about stuff, because I don't want to misquote myself.
But
Okay.
I think that's the problem, Mike, right, is that we don't have something right now that allows for this, which is why, like Lori said, is probably, we're gonna
Okay.
end up getting behind. Right.
The thing is, we need to be proactive now.
Yep.
We need to be proactive on getting bylaws changed. And I made it very specific to Bill that we're not looking to do anything wrong. We want to do, it should be within what the Board of Health allows. And when you have a 1 acre sandy soil, town water piece of property that is beautiful, level lot to build on, we need to help that process move along.
Mhm.
Not say, oh, we don't have the bylaw.
Yep.
So there's the crust of it. We have done, Mike, I don't know how much study you've done on new construction in Townsend last 10 years or 20 years, but it's pretty nil. If you go into Leominster or Sterling, go to those border areas of those cities and towns, and you'll see construction everywhere. Maynard, everywhere. Nashua, everywhere. They're making their contributions for housing. We're not.
Yeah. Madam Chair, if I can make a suggestion, we have a roadmap through our housing production plan.
Correct.
And I believe that, at least my thoughts are to be able to look at the items in totality of what they have laid out for us, where actually our punch list, and really look at what we can do, prioritize that particular list and start that way. And on those recommendations, I do believe that the zoning and planning bylaw changes were part of that.
That's correct. Yep. So I have it in front of me here, but I think it'd be good for us, definitely, just like you're saying, to take a look at this and review it, because there are, the things that they were kind of selecting for us in the first year. So many of them are looking at some of these zoning and bylaws. So I agree. I think it's something that be great to pick an item. Maybe it's a couple of us looking at something and trying to move some of these forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should shorten our goals as far as the dates on getting the zoning done. I don't have the plan in front of me, Courtney, so
Yeah.
I don't know what dates you have there, but it's enough already. It's
Yeah.
time overdue.
Yeah, I mean, they've put them in different years, right, for which things they are. Like, for instance, just number one that I'm looking at here is, in the first year, they're saying consider amendments to the accessory apartment provisions to remove affordability requirements and create a buy rate option, right? So that's something that we had talked about, and that one's sitting in the first year. But some of these kind of these other ones, like the bigger ones, like zoning regulations to create more flexibility for new housing development in areas with minimal environmental constraints. That one is taking up like a 3-year chunk to try to make that happen. And I think what you're saying, Lori, is to try to get that started now so we can try to
Yes.
do. Okay.
Definitely. especially because the verbiage is there already as far as no environmental constraints.
Right.
Okay, we should be finding those parcels now. We should be allowing that now in order to make this happen.
Mhm.
And allowing that to happen is not going to cost the town any money. We're looking at, we have almost 1,500 less people than we had 10 years ago,
Mhm.
12 years ago in town. And it's costing us a hell of a lot more money to run with less people. So I'm not concerned about us getting an influx of 1,000 people. Why? We've already been bigger than that,
Yeah.
and that's not going to happen. I'm just saying that, as a statement. We continue to go down, we continue to get less service and pay more money.
Yeah.
Nothing new.
Well, the demographics that came out on the in the housing production plan kind of concerned me because the populace is getting much older and the income doesn't look like it's increasing, and I'm concerned that our community is at a point where we're going to be aging out. But I also know that right now with the way the market is, it looks like more newer people are moving into town.
More newer people are moving into town and they are coming from other areas because we're currently still a bit more affordable.
Yes.
Okay. Our new construction has been almost as high as a lot of other areas. When you're getting houses being built and they're $675 for a new construction, when you're buying a house in Timberley Park for $525, I mean, people have to be making money to be able to buy something like that. Either that or you find people coming in paying cash. So there are new people coming in. Do they necessarily have children? That's really weird because the people that I know that have moved in recently don't, but they have dogs.
True story.
I don't. So I don't know what to say, but we need to move it along. We can't have it sit from meeting to meeting, from year to year. We're past that. We now need to streamline something now, show that it can be done, and work from there.
So if we're going to Courtney, if I may, I'm sorry, I'm
Yep.
just jumping right in because thinking I own the place here. If we then take it sounds to me like the bylaws are something that we should, Lori is bringing out that we probably need to target those.
Yep.
Do you think we should discuss what we as the housing authority need to do to try to effectuate the changes for the zoning and for the planning? What we need to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a suggestion.
Joan?
Thanks, because Lori, Bill and I just saw Lori, and you all know Bill's head of the ZBA. And Lori, you told Bill the same, and that he needed to get on it and writing a thing. I would draft it yourself and get it to him. If you want some action, you know what I'm saying? You write what you want and get it to him and let him massage it a little bit, but at least that way it'll get written and it'll get done.
Yeah, but I don't want to be part of kind of telling another board how to do it. That's the concern that
You
I
could
would
tell,
have.
you could tell me then, give it to me, I'll tell him. How's that?
Well,
Well,
I mean,
that's kind of why that is why I made the statement to him though this afternoon, and that was zoning needs to propose to planning a bylaw. We can do it the other way around. I mean, bylaws come before planning first, and then
Yeah.
they go to, well, not first, they can come from other boards, but they get approved by the planning. There's, and I was confused by last night's meeting, I guess. Is there a public hearing when you're going to do a bylaw change?
It
Did with the dog thing.
Right, but there's a if it was a general bylaw that we were doing last night. That's a general
Okay.
bylaw, so
Okay.
anybody can propose it and anybody, it
You don't
doesn't.
need a public hearing for that. The
Correct.
public hearing is the town meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but in this way, a bylaw for housing would have to have a public hearing,
Yes.
right? So, Chaz, what suggestion would you make? Have town council draft the bylaw and go before planning and then disperse to the different departments?
Well, my suggestion would be for us to, I personally don't believe we need to reinvent the wheels. I
Yeah.
think we need to do some research and look at like communities, find out what they have in like communities, look at their bylaw. If we find a bylaw that we like, then we can suggest something like that to the zoning board. They can do whatever they may with it, but it will go in front of town council at some point before anything else.
Okay. Courtney, can you do that?
Absolutely, yeah, I can do some research on it before our next meeting and try to send around a few examples, and then maybe when we meet next time, we can have a little discussion around what we found.
Okay. Now, in the meantime, we're not going to hold up this gentleman. He's going to proceed. He's going to have septic design done and a new architectural design for the building as well. So he'll be presenting those. And again, most likely will be turned down by the building inspector because there is not a bylaw that will accommodate him. And then it will go to zoning.
Right.
But
And
I
at that
think that-
point, that's where we can support him, that we as a housing authority, if he is, if this is indeed going to fall in line and everything matches up with what the regulations are, I don't see a problem with us going into the meeting with zoning.
Okay, and planning is going to support it.
Yeah.
Okay, because this is what the whole goal is now,
Mm-hmm.
is to get something like this done, accomplished, and used as an example for hopefully future construction.
Well-
Hopefully get other owners who want to deal
Want
with
to
it.
do something like this. I mean, and Lori, you and I and you and I have gone through that. We've just got to do it. It's not that we're going to be bullheaded about it, but if we go in and say, this is something that the housing authority has been working on for the past 8 years, this is a prime project for us to be able to take advantage of. We would be able to at least be the voice in the zoning. We know that we could be part of planning, and then that in turn will spur getting a new bylaw written as well, if we need a bylaw around it.
All right, well, I guess we're all the choir here.
Yep.
So, Mike, can you help?
I'm happy to help whatever way I can, for sure. Absolutely. One
Can
of
you
the things that
assist Courtney, can you assist Courtney with the seeking of a bylaw similar to Townsend?
Sure, I can, that's definitely, that kind of research is very easy for me to get something together and just get a couple of towns of similar size and density and kind of see what their versions of this are and just put them together in a list. That's very easy for me, but I'm happy to do that.
All right,
And-
thank you very
and
much.
It looks like Goldson had a few examples in here too that we might be able to pull from right from the HPP as well. So
Mm-hmm.
they gave a good jumping off point.
Sure.
Okay.
So do we want to concentrate on that as our first goal
think-
per se that we're going to be focusing on for the housing production plan?
I would make that motion if we need a motion. That be number one.
I'll second that motion if it is a motion.
Thank you. Are you accepting, Courtney, that motion?
Yes. Do we need a roll call vote? We can roll call vote if you'd
Yeah.
like. Let's do it. Roll call vote, please.
Natalie Cole, yes.
Laura Schifrin, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Courtney Burley, yes. Okay. We had 2.1.1, but we did discuss that. So I'm going to move on to 2.2, the affordable accessory apartment process. I know we talked about this a little bit last time as well, kind of citing where we could find that information. Has anyone heard any follow-up on that? If we needed some further direction needs to be given? I have
What
not
do you-
heard.
What are you looking for, Courtney?
So I just want to make sure that basically last time we said that documents were available through CHAPA and Mass Affordable Housing State website, because I think someone was requesting a kind of process on how to actually apply for the affordable apartment if they were to build one.
Mhm.
And I have not heard anything back on whether they needed additional information, but I didn't know if anyone else had heard back anything further.
Jody, didn't we have a process already? Didn't we do something a couple of years ago?
I don't know that there's a process, but this is in regards to Beth's email, I think, about the affordability and what if the ZBA gets an application, and don't quote me because I'm trying to do this from memory, what are the steps they need to do as far as the regulatory stuff through like CHAPA and things like that. I think it basically, they just wanted to be prepared in case they did get this application in, of what steps they needed to take. I don't know if this is ringing any bells for you.
That would be something that if that is their question, then they need to bring it to the housing authority. And the housing authority would answer that, and I would be able to walk you through exactly what they would need to do, Jody.
Okay.
But the zoning wouldn't have anything to do with the regulatory responsibilities of that.
Then I may have spoke out of turn. I've got to tell you, it's been a while since we read that email.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay. It's here's the thing. When you're talking about affordable housing, you're talking about a marginal community that shouldn't really have their information out there. So the process really for somebody to do that is between the CHAPA and the DHCD. And because these individuals are going to be taking applications, there's a process that they have to follow for applications. And it's how do I say it? Like in medical, we have HIPAA, which means that any information we get, we can't share. It would be the same for affordable housing as well. So the process needs to go through an agency that is understanding of what it is. So it would have to go through the housing authority.
Would that include them trying to get the deed restriction in place to be able to build it? That's the same thing. Okay.
Yep. So I mean, the zoning can say you have to go through CHAPA's process, blah, 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 and you need to talk to the housing authority for that particular process. You know, if you have, and you're saying somebody wants to build an accessory apartment that is affordable, what process do they need to get that labeled as affordable? That's what we do as the housing authority. So they need to contact us. That's what they need to do.
Yeah, I'm just I'm looking through the email, and again, this was a while ago. It was
a while ago.
do you have any information on what and at what point in the permitting process the applicant must execute a regulatory agreement and declaration of restrictive covenants for affordable accessory apartments if they choose to rent the accessory apartment to a non-family member?
Right. And again, that would need to come through the housing authority as opposed to going through the planning or the zoning.
Okay. And perhaps that is clear enough for her.
Yeah. See, there's some restrictions. There's some people that own property that don't want that information as public knowledge, that they do have an affordable housing on their property.
Mhm.
That's kind of what I'm trying not to say, but I just said it. That's why it needs to go through the agency.
Any other discussion on that topic? Okay.
Did
We
you
had
say so- did you say something, Lori?
Yeah, I did, and I was muted.
Lori?
I actually had the owner in here. So I kind of let him hear what was going on. And, but one thing I didn't, where did we end up with the comprehensive permit thing? Is that what he should be doing or not doing or what?
I have to look into the statutes on that.
All right, let me know because it's not a hurry. But for example, I told you that this is like a perfect piece of land.
Mhm.
He had his soil testing done today. He's got the groundwater's at 12 feet and there's 7 feet of pure sand. So it's like perfect for a septic system and it has town water.
Yep.
So, I mean, he's going forward with the designs for a 6-bedroom, 3 2-bedroom townhouse style affordable units.
And my suggestion would be to have him go forward with that. And we would look at it, making sure that it fits all of, what would be considered affordable housing. And then we would support this. There isn't any bylaws right now that would support something like this. So if we support something like this and assist in getting it built, help them through the process to get it built, then once it gets built, now we know what we need to write for our bylaws. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
If he's that anxious to do something, let's help him. Let's shepherd the process for him.
Yeah. And Mike, I hope you'll be on board with us on this in assisting us because no developer, no person who's going to file a permit should have to wait 12 to 24 months. This is not, time is money, and the cost of materials is going up astronomically to a point where it may actually halt some developers from being able to build, especially with the interest rates going up now. You have to be able to make money. You can't cover the cost of the construction for materials. We're bidding small jobs at country estates like gutters and PVC vinyl for trim, astronomical. I bet you it's 4 times higher than it was 2 years ago. It just can go on so long.
Mm-hmm.
So if you hear anything that I should pass along to this owner, Mike or Chaz, please let me know. I don't want him spinning any wheels that he doesn't have to spin. That's not our job. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go on to 2.3 MBTA community zoning. I know we started to talk about this earlier. I don't know if anybody has any other comments about it. I know, Mike, you and I spoke about this a little bit a while ago, and you were looking into maybe some of the parcels, possibly being able to use some of those as those larger parcels for the MBTA zoning.
Yeah, we've been kind of just bird's eye view kind of feasibility. What kind of parcels do we have in the area that could be utilized for this? Not necessarily even going into the depth of saying doing perk testing or anything like that, but just like where do we have large parcels that could potentially host these kind of things. Additionally, the required MBTA application that needed to be sent in was sent in last month, just as an FYI, that we don't have to worry about that not getting done. It got done. And I think I forwarded it along to at least some of the folks, although I can forward it to the housing if I didn't. I apologize if I didn't. But we're kind of looking at it in the bird's eye view, but in particular, it's trying to find the right mix of geographic, making sure it's close to those downtown community clusters, which in some cases might mean spreading out parcels because, we have a couple different villages in town, basically. And, it might make sense to have a larger parcel near one and then a larger parcel near another, as opposed to trying to find one and just completely surrounding it with that overlay. But we're just kind of at that bird's eye view, kind of going through parcels and parcel history and what we have for town parcels and what is theoretically viable. I don't have any specifics to put forward on parcels for sure. And I would not do that this early on, I promise you. But there are a few that we're looking at that could potentially be very very good fits.
Is Dudley Road on that?
Is this the property that went to the housing trust last night?
Mm-hmm.
That was one that we definitely explored because it was already something that had been considered for housing. It has some wetlands on it, obviously, but it is in close proximity to, the senior center and the library, and a lot of, in its own way, kind of another community cluster. And if we ever did get public transportation in town, like a bus system coming from either Lowell or Mart, it would probably end up servicing the library and the senior center, and therefore would be in close proximity. So that was one that we've definitely been looking at. It is a good sized parcel as well, but it obviously is not all that we need. And in particular, finding that one parcel that has to be the largest size, I think is going to be the challenge in finding that one. Once we find that one, we can kind of say, okay, what do we have to cluster near that? What can we just disparate out? It doesn't have to be a certain parcel, but it has to be a certain district. And so it has to be either, it can be a cluster of parcels, but it's finding out that right mix, because it doesn't work if we put like a great parcel cluster and then in the middle is an industrial that we couldn't use for residential housing. So we have to find that right balance.
Lori?
Okay. One of the conversations that we had about that parcel of land, because it does have some wetlands on it, and yes, it is a great location, was to do a swap with, since this law has been placed in place by the governor, was to do a swap of some of the state forest land owned by the state across the street. Now, there are more than enough acres there. And if we wanted to, if we could get, say, a 30-acre parcel or 20 or double that size, a 25-acre parcel for this parcel in a swap, that would certainly help us go a long way to that 50-acre, overlay. Or maybe even get a whole 50 acres there. We can look around at some of the other parcels that we own locally and swap all of those for a large parcel across the street. And there's town water there as well on that street. So
I had heard about that idea of a parcel swap, and I was kind of
that's
curious.
because I just thought about it.
No, I had heard it. No, I had heard about it discussed previously.
Yeah, but not the 50 acres.
Not that 50 acres, but that just the general idea of the Dudley Road parcel swap. And I was curious, where does are you able to say like where you are in the discussion and what that's going on with the state, or is it just kind of a preliminary, or is there
I will give that to Chaz because he has spoken to people at the state about this, and Sheila Harrington.
Well, where we are is is it something that we can do? The answer is yes. Is it something that they would be interested in, the state would be interested in looking at? The answer is yes. And we haven't really gone any further with that. Part of the reason is we wanted to make sure that the properties actually went to the Affordable Housing Trust like they did. That was kind of holding off on a conversation that I was having with Senator Cronin in regards to it. But he's on board to assist us with whatever we need to do to increase our housing.
So they say that it basically takes an act of Congress for them to give up any of their state-owned land. This would be a swap, and it would be a swap that enables the community to help obtain the goals of the state. And that's how I would present it.
Because the governor's focus has been to increase housing production in the state because we are so far behind. And that's why he's doing that. That's why he's relaxing some of the vote margins on bylaw changes. He wants towns to look at their bylaws and have them less restrictive. He's actually doing a lot to make sure that we are increasing our housing because we are in a housing crisis, which people don't seem to understand we are.
Thank you for that information. Yeah, appreciate that. And if there's any way I can help facilitate anything along those communications, please let me know.
Mhm.
But that's good to know. I was kind of curious about that, but I had a feeling that there was a step one to the process that we achieved last night, and I recognize that you have to move one thing at a time. So thank you.
It's like those little mosaics when you're a kid. You got to move those tiles around until you find the full picture. We're still moving tiles. We're going to be doing that for a while, I think.
Mhm.
I think, Courtney, that again, our biggest thing is that we wanted to get this housing production plan written. It's written. We
Yep.
have a roadmap. So let's look at what we need, what we want to be able to move forward. And I agree with, let's look at this first. I think it dovetails well with the MBTA plan as well, if we need to. There's also, if you don't mind me kind of throwing my thoughts out here, Lori, when we were on the planning board, when I was on the planning board with you, we did what was it, the 30D? What was that? We were looking at the larger construction, where we were we talked about the school Hawthorne,
43D.
43D. Now the 43D, I think is something that we tried to earmark for certain parcels within town. And if that is the case, why can't we take those same parcels and see if we could do an MBTA project on those?
The
So,
Atwood Acres Park. Oh, sorry, I apologize. I should have spoken.
so the Atwood parcel was one of them.
Mhm.
The Main Street, West Townsend, which was an industrial building. I think that was another one. The other one was Central Plaza.
Mhm.
What was the other one? I keep forgetting the other one. Is it towards the harbor?
Was it Deluxe here?
I don't remember, but
Was
certainly
it Deluxe on
list
South
is-
Street?
the list is in town hall of what
Yeah.
is in that proposal that went to the state.
Now it's, and I'm going to ask Mike because I know that he knows a little bit about this too. I think it has to be a site that has a 50 unit. It has to accommodate 50 units.
Is this for MBTA or
Nope.
for the 43D?
43D.
I actually don't know the answer to that one. I'm sorry to say.
Because
I
I'm
can't-
thinking we can mix both the 43, we have that was designed so that we were earmarking certain parcels that would accommodate what they're asking for to be able to, and I believe that the permitting process was once we get it in there and we say that it's part of that particular program, then it's always going to be that way, and we can go in and you know what I mean? The permitting is going to be that much quicker.
It was supposed to be streamlined to a 6-month permitting
There you go. So
once it's accepted. And my understanding is that, well, we don't have an answer on that yet, but my understanding was that one of the parcels was going to be selected. But that doesn't negate that we still think the potential of all the parcels.
correct.
Now, unfortunately, I know Mike has his hand up, but unfortunately, those parcels that are on Main Street, they don't add up to a lot of acreage.
Right.
Like the Central Plaza, I know is 2 acres. I don't know what the one in West Townsend is. We know, what Atwood is 11 and a half. I don't think it added up to 50 acres, but I can't remember. I don't know, Jody, if you have a document in front of you that is that application that went in, or maybe Mike does, and that's why his hand is up. Stop talking.
So I want to make sure I tend to jump.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. I want to respect that. So I actually, while I didn't have the answer to Chaz's question, I do have more answers about 43D. I've actually been talking with the state, getting updates on the 43D program, even in the last few weeks, because it's something we're trying to outline. They did do some redevelopment of the 43D application in the last year and a half to incorporate and promote MBTA housing under the 43D program.
Yes.
That they dovetailed that, which they did a good job on. But it also was one of the reasons that we haven't moved forward is they redid the application in the middle of our process while we were short-staffed in my office. So we're like, oh, the people in my office were like, let's not do this. Well, the state doesn't know what they're doing and we're on a timeline and we don't have staff, which I'm glad they did. But we do have a lot of interest in it, and it is something that we're having conversations about, and I can kind of share some of those conversations with the Housing Authority if that's the case. And also, the individuals from 43D have been really helpful, and I'm sure they'd be willing to jump on a call with folks from housing as well. And I'm happy to try and facilitate that if that's something that could be helpful.
Okay.
They have someone new who is overseeing the 43D program, and then there is also some folks that have been kind of with the program for a while. They're still figuring, one of the questions that I had, there's a few questions ago, for example, there wasn't clear guidance if you could do one property at a time. And that was a question we had asked for them. And they actually had to do some research to figure out, yes, you can do one parcel at a time. You don't need to do all or none at the same time. So that would allow us a little bit of flexibility going forward and saying, okay, we think this parcel would be great for Mbta, 43D, all the bells and whistles. We'd like to move forward with this problem, get the project, get this covered well, and then we can double back to the next property and say, well, what is the best use for this property without having to try and figure out all four at the same time, which I'm very glad for. But I'm happy to kind of facilitate any of that and share communications with that specifically. I've been reaching out through the avenue of 43D, but asking questions knowing that MBTA is also on the horizon.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something we obviously want to be kept in the loop on. I think we've been trying to just make sure that we're kind of involved in any kind of conversations that can help move affordable housing forward.
Yeah, and to clarify, I didn't go to them and talk about for the purpose of housing. I noticed that one of the 43D properties that we had identified in town was already talked about for housing. And so I went and talked about if we could pursue one at a time. And I would definitely, if we were having an actual conversation about housing, I would definitely make sure that the Housing Authority and the Housing Committee was involved. So I wouldn't go forward with that, but it is the kind of thing that just, I happen to have seen their application and I know that that application has been updated to include MBTA communities.
Good. Progress, not perfection.
Any other comments under MBTA zoning right now? Good. 2.4 correspondence and clerk's announcements. Do we have anything, Jody?
I think I sent out yesterday, hang on, I sent out the budget just for you guys to peruse. I also sent out the MBTA form that Mike did send, and I sent to all of you guys just for an FYI. And then the last piece was the DHCD notice. Did you guys get that as well that I sent out? They're looking for the totals. I guess Kathy will be able to input any numbers. I don't think there's any changes. But obviously, it's your purview.
What do you mean Kathy's putting in numbers?
For Gateway, for the state. The clerk has to put in any changes. She got this notice that I sent to you guys, as well as the selectmen, actually.
Is it the, are you talking about the housing inventory?
Yes, the housing inventory.
Gotcha. We need to come up with a process on that. There's never been a formal process on that. It went to, my knowledge is it went to the executive assistant, to the town administrator, and then it went to Kathy Spofford, and the Housing Authority never got involved in that, which we need to, because we need to be able to know what our current housing inventory is. We need to know, was it increased or decreased? And here's the reason why, Jody. Coppersmith has had a property that went market value. All right. It was an affordable house. It went market value, and there is a difference in the pricing on that. And that difference should be coming to the town. We don't have any record of that. If it happened, number one. Number two, if it did happen, where did that money go? Which my assumption is it just went into the general fund of the town. This is why the Housing Authority needs to know those numbers and needs to know how they're switched. that if that money comes into the town, then the town needs to, well, the housing authority would then have to say where that money goes. And 9 times out of 10, we'd probably end up voting it to go to the Affordable Housing Trust. So, Madam Chair, I think we need to figure out what kind of process we need to have for that information when it comes in.
I mean, I will say, Kathy brought this to me immediately, as well as Katie right now, who is holding down the fort upstairs.
Yep.
So, I mean, the second they opened it, they brought it right to me.
Yep.
So,
And that's how it should have been.
yeah.
Anyway.
So
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, they weren't trying to do it. They were immediately like, and I said,
No,
oh, we have
that's-
to have a meeting, so let me present it.
And I am awesomely glad that they did that.
Yes.
So, you know, this is something that we've been trying to figure out for the past, I don't know, 6 years on who gets the information and how does this get updated when we haven't even seen it yet. So having said that, how do you want to do that, Madam Chair?
I just want to make sure I'm clear on it though. So what they're asking for is for us to input numbers into this system, right? So that we update the numbers for them.
Yes.
But and the question is, who's holding the numbers now, right? Do we have a list now? And then
We have it in our housing production plan.
right. So are we just taking it from there to there, and then I guess from there, like your question earlier was, how do we know if something dropped off that list? And I guess I don't know how to answer that in a process yet. How do we get that information from someone if something drops off the list?
So it should be handled with a certain, we didn't have an administrator before. So when we got the budget and we got Jody, that function would fall onto Jody to collect that data, bring it to us so that we in turn would then either give it to Jody to give to Kathy or however that works. Does that make sense? So the housing authority itself, we have to collect that data as it comes in. And then there's always the same time during the year that you then report it to the clerk.
Mm-hmm. So as of right now, we are assuming we have the exact same data that we've seen in our housing production plan. It's correct because they obviously just pulled those numbers for us.
Correct.
But in the future, if someone hears of a situation like Coppersmith, right? It would come somehow get to Jody, who would tell us that it has dropped off list or that it's available.
We would have to have some kind of knowledge with the building department that if they're giving a permit for a house or whatever, if something has changed. We also formulate a year-end report, and in that year-end report, we need to be asking the building department how many new permits, any new housing, all of that kind of stuff. And then Lori, is it the assessors that has the that sends out the properties? Like on Coppersmith Way, we have a list that tells us what is on the housing inventory, so that I think it's the assessor. Go ahead.
It's not, because when I first started, I had to go on a hunt to find that list.
Yeah.
And it was for sure not in our office. It was in the housing files.
Yes.
So prior, Karen Chapman, I believe, was kind of paying more attention to that.
Yep.
And
The
I'm
land-
not sure where that's gone.
The land use coordinator. Oh, okay. Hi, Mike.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anytime I show up at a meeting, I get more work.
How it
You're
goes.
wondering why I didn't come for 3 months.
I don't think you necessarily need to be involved until you hear something in the housing area and let us know. We, at the time, Karen was kind of like our she did a lot of the administrative stuff as well. And now that we have Jody, I think Jody can be our data collector, and then we can discuss it as it comes in. If I remember correctly, it's April or May that we report to CHAPA, and that's why Kathy said that we need to have this information. So we usually gather, or we should be gathering the information for our annual report in January. Once we have the annual report, with the annual report, we're going to have all the information from the building department of the previous, anything that's affected, any affordability. We'd also need to check with zoning to see if they had any, if they've given out any applications for affordable apartments or anything like that. Change of use, if anybody had asked for special permits for that, and then that's what we would be reporting to CHAPA. As far as the real estate and all of that kind of stuff, CHAPA notifies us if like Coppersmith, when they had a unit that went to market value, they tried to sell it affordable for a year. It didn't sell in that year. Then CHAPA notified us that unit is then going to go to market value, and that's when we need to be notified so that we as a housing authority can make sure that we're getting the money that we need to get.
So I guess where's that information going? Because that's, I guess, the question, because I've never seen anything like that from CHAPA or anything. I mean,
No.
I did just reach out like you asked, but that was DHCD to email me.
Mhm.
But I don't know where that information's going. I'll hunt it down if you tell me where to hunt.
I think it was going to an individual who's no longer here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I don't know what was coming in. That's because we just weren't informed of all of that. So my thought is, did you reach out? You reached out to DHCD and for the contact, right? I think we
Yes.
might need to do that for CHAPA as well.
Okay.
We did have a contact, Lori. Do you remember the gentleman we had from CHAPA that came out when we were doing the veterans housing?
Do I remember his name? No, I remember him saying that we got $10,000 that we never saw.
I was going to say that.
That's what I will never forget.
I know.
But I will say to you, I'm trying to get all the properties that were affordable. So 22 Coppersmith Way was an affordable unit. And it was first time home buyer or not have owned a home in 3 years. It states CHAPA right in the listing. It was listed at 202 and sold for 217. And that was May 31st of 2019. Let me just, so 2000 and the prior sale price was 195.2. And then when it sold and that was September, this is public record, assessor's public property record. And it is originally sold 9/26/2008 at 195.2. It sold 5/31/2019 at 217. So I don't know what happened to money in between. I think people, maybe they just ignored the town. The seller of the property was not able to get the difference. Now, expenses have to be paid, so I'm sure that the commission had to come out of that. They would not be able to have made a profit. So any profit over and above the expenses of selling the property would have come back to the housing authority in town, is my understanding.
Correct.
Maybe it went back to CHAPA and we never saw it again. Maybe it never hit our operating budget. I don't know, but that's an example. Now, I believe when Coppersmith was approved, and again, it's got to be in the town records, they were to build 6 affordable units. I know that 2 were built. I don't know that the others were built because I think unless the new section that was done incorporated affordable units, and I don't remember the name of the street. So Jody, if you can get the street names for me that are in Coppersmith Way.
Lois Lane.
Oh, okay. So you have that one, right? 22 Coppersmith. let me just.
They're like Superman named streets.
Oh, how did Coppersmith get there then?
Just saying,
Oh,
I
okay.
remember Lois Lane. I don't know why. but-
Okay. All
But we
right.
do have the number, we do have the particular ones that we have right now. We have that list anyways that can be filled out for this particular form, right?
Okay. Can you send me that list as well?
It's in the housing production plan, Lori.
Okay, fine. All right. I will try to look up any transfers in
Yes.
there that were affordable and get that to you, and then you go wherever you're supposed to go. And Mike's hand is up, so I'm gonna.
Yes, Mike.
I had a question not relevant to this, but something else in correspondence, and I don't want to interrupt the conversation if it's still going on. But if it's all right, we've had a few people come in, developers, with questions about age-restricted housing developments that they're considering here in town. And they had a few specific logistical questions, and I was wondering if I could recommend them to come before you before going to planning, or what would be the best procedure for that? One of the things specifically that they brought, which is a question that I didn't have an answer for, under the age restricted housing, there is a requirement that there should be a common open space that's placed under conservation restriction that shall be about 30% of the lot area. And the bylaw demonstrates how the property can be 2 or more acres. And so they brought forward a consideration about what would happen if a developer came in with a 3.5 acre development, and 1 acre would have to be put under conservation restriction. How would they find someone who would be willing to hold that conservation restriction? Because it's such a small parcel, it would probably be not necessarily something of significant conservation value in some cases, and a lot of land trusts don't like holding small parcels. And so there's just some questions that I wanted to see if that, just because they've been coming in, is the best thing to do to send them to you, or what would be the best way to handle them in this case?
Do you want me to try to answer that? I can maybe answer with another question, or tell you, to, okay, so there is a bylaw for the age restriction, and you just stated some of that. I think, Chaz, I'm gonna turn that to you, because it would be the town is imposing that they make it conservation area. Does the town now take over the overseeing of that conservation area? I don't think any developer is going to hang around to, do that.
I don't
What
know
was
unless
the
the
intent?
Conservation Commission wants to take that over. I don't know.
Joan?
That's why I wanted some guidance, because it didn't know where it was supposed to go next. And that's why I'm like, let me talk to these folks because I'm coming tonight. This is a good time
know.
to bring up. make
I
sure
was
I'm-
just gonna say, I wonder if the housing trust would be the ones to hold it. If they're,
Joan is on conservation as well, so.
I'm here. Well, the conservation actually owns over 55 pieces of land, and thanks to Jessica and Matt's and Mike's efforts, a list has been created, and we're kind of slowly starting actually looking at those pieces that haven't been looked at since ever. And I know a lot of them are small. In the meantime, I think we're trying to figure out what our responsibility is for owning them. But we have lots of smaller pieces than 1 acre. So maybe that would be possible. And that's all I can say about that.
Well, just to clarify, some of those smaller parcels came through open space subdivision, which under open space subdivision, you can put the open space under a conservation restriction, or you can transfer it to the Conservation Commission. The age restricted development does not allow for the land to be transferred to the Conservation Commission. It has to have a conservation restriction, which has to be held by an entity. I don't know if the Conservation Commission holds conservation restrictions. I mean, it's got conservation in it, so maybe they do.
They do.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's I guess the thing, the turnaround, because some of these parcels in particular, because the bylaw only requires 2 acres to be considered, and it requires 30%, it's theoretical that we'd be having half-acre parcels or a slightly over a half an acre going into a conservation restriction, which could even include kind of like a buffer, like a backyard area. So I just wanted to get some guidance from you before I responded to the applicant.
Mike, the other, Veronica Kell is also like a CR guru. She's been, because, you know, of the Townsend Land Trust that she's headed for so many years, she really knows an awful lot about CRs. So she might be a good resource.
Because I know I'd like to see more people using that age restricted bylaw. And if that's a barrier, then maybe we need to look at that, Mike.
Well, I'm happy to look at it and talk about it. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a barrier to development. I think that someone's coming over to say hi, by the way. My 8-year-old's right there. I think it's more that they want to know what that process is going to be like in terms of who's going to be holding the CR, so that they can anticipate how much time that might take. And so the specifics of, I don't think that it's a CR is a problem. I think it's all right, well, what is that actually going to be like? And because we haven't had one yet in town, we don't actually know that answer. So that's why I wanted to touch base with all of you. Right. So I could tell them to just start moving forward with the process, and we could kind of work with them as we progress along and find the best pathway forward. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to start by talking with you and checking in and seeing what the right process in your vision would be, and where you want to make sure that you're involved in the process.
Well, my answer would be yes, always start with the process. There is no other, this would be one of the first ones that came through. So we need to shepherd that through as well. You know, we can't say no if we don't know how to do it. So let's figure out how to do it and move it forward.
Fantastic.
I'd like to say hi to Mike's daughter. Hi.
She's a little shy, if you hadn't noticed by just this small corner here. Yeah. But she welcomes the fact that you're being nice. So thank you. Well, that was what I had to bring up. I will make sure to copy folks on any communications I have about it, so you guys can keep abreast of it. And I'll encourage him to start thinking about going to the building commissioner and the planning board to start figuring out how to get the process rolling. Mm-hmm. But I want to make sure that we're involved in it. And as this is certainly something that is very important to I think it's in the housing production plan, if I'm correct, the age restricted housing. Yes. Okay. So I'll make sure that you guys are fully informed and able to be involved in any way. And if you guys at any point were like, I want to take the lead, well, then I am delighted to hand that off to you. So, but in the meantime, I'm just happy to hear that folks are interested in coming into town and pursuing these new regulations and helping with the housing in Townsend.
Yes, so, and any support we can be, let us know.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. I think I'm actually going to step off of the meeting. I feel like there's something else I need to be attending to. But thank you for letting me come in and say hello to everybody tonight.
Bye.
I think you're all doing. I thank you all for all you're doing, and I'll talk to you again soon, I'm sure.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, Jody, was there anything else under the correspondence that we need to take a look at tonight?
I don't believe so. I think those were, yep, that's it.
Okay. We have 2.5, approve the meeting minutes from Thursday, March 31st.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of Thursday, March 31st, 2022.
Second the motion.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Natalie Cole, yes.
Laura Schifrin, yes.
Judge Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Courtney Brella, yes. Okay. Our next meeting date, and Natalie, you said Wednesdays are better for you now, right?
Yes. Yes, please. Yep.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
I just wanted to tell you that I found 3 sales in Coppersmith, and I have sent the listings and the sale dates to Jody.
Great. Thank you. Do we want to look at the beginning of June?
I'm gonna be gone from June 9th to June 18th. Cruising, let's just say.
Well, so that means she's available on Wednesday, the 8th.
The 8th?
Yes, the 8th I'm available. The 9th I'm flying.
Courtney, may I,
Yep.
Madam Chair? I
Yep.
believe that's a Conservation Commission on that Wednesday, the 8th of June.
Okay.
That would be at, what time do we meet? 7. No, yes, 7, I think.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Would June 1st work?
Yes,
I'm free on that.
I'm free on the 1st. I'll put it on the calendar.
I can do that.
I'm gonna say goodnight, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Joan.
Bye,
Yeah, you're
Joan.
welcome. Bye-bye.
Thanks for last night, Joan.
Yeah, thank
Joan.
you. Yeah, that's great. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Okay. Wednesday, June 1st at 7 p.m.
got it. Yep. All set. Thank you.
And I'll make a motion that we adjourn at 8:31.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Natalie Cole, yes.
Or Schifrin, yes.
Chaz Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Courtney Burrell, yes. Thank you, everybody.